however, you have an expectation of 18.67%. And the reason for this is that it's reasonably likely that the player with 2,980 chips is going to go out. And once you do that, you are guaranteed third place. So this is a clear fold. It's even, in fact, a clear fold if you have kings. And you can go further in the Poker Tracker ICM tool. If you click the results link that's right here, it will bring up the full math, and I'm not going to go through the ICM math right now for you. I know you're going to go through that later in the course. But what you can do is you can change their ranges right here by clicking these buttons. And so I've set them to 100% range. That means these players are playing any two cards. So even if you knew before the hand that they pushed all in blind, they didn't even look at their hands, so they could have any two cards, either one of them, it's still a fold, because fold equity still is close to 19%, and your push equity is 15%, even though you're going to win half of all hands against two random cards. So before we talk a little bit more about how to use Poker Tracker to analyze your game and see where you can improve, I wanted to talk a little bit about how you can use Poker Tracker and not get better at poker. Because there's some great and interesting stuff in Poker Tracker that you can spend lots of time looking at that will not help you at all make a better decision. So, looking at graphs. People love looking at their results graphs. And here's a nice results graph. You know, you started off at hand 1, you had a nice run here, you went steady for a little while, you won a few big hands around hand 183,000, and then you end up about plus 860,000 euros. Now, since poker is a series of decision points, the question is, which decisions would you make differently based on this graph? And the answer is, absolutely none of them. Knowing that you did this well in this spot is not going to help you make better decisions in the future. It may allow you to buy a house in the Boston area, but it will not help you actually play better poker. Another way you will not get better at poker by using Poker Tracker is by looking at hands which we call walks. A walk is when you're in the big blind and everyone folds to you. You win the small blind, which is nice, but you didn't do anything. There's no way in which you could make a better play in that hand. And I know a lot of heads-up sit-and-go players who play two-player tournaments like to look at those kinds of spots, and they want to know, well, how much am I winning there? And the answer is it doesn't matter, because you can't change your play based on who folds to you. Another thing that people want to do with Poker Tracker that won't help them get better at poker is analyzing luck. We have several tools for luck in Poker Tracker. This graph is from the cash game side. It's actually, you'll notice the normal curve. And this is actually normalized. So what you're seeing here is each dot tells you how often you're hitting your draws relative to expectations. So this player is more than 1 standard deviation above the mean at flopping 3 of a kind when he holds a pocket pair, which we call flopping a set. And that's fantastic. He's probably making lots of money when he has these pocket pairs because making a set is a very powerful hand. However, he's not going to be able to change the way he plays by knowing that he's been lucky in the past, because he may or may not continue to be lucky in the future. I also have a friend who spent lots of time building lots of reports to see if he was getting dealt aces more regularly than average. And while it's great to be dealt aces more regularly than average, and you will make lots more money if you get dealt aces more regularly than average, knowing what happened last week will not help you the next time you're sitting at the poker table. The last thing I'm going to say about Poker Tracker, and this is a little bit trickier. There are lots of statistics and lots of numbers in Poker Tracker. I think that we have easily over 1,000 different statistics you can look at, especially when you consider combinations of position. And if you add stack size to that, it's in the thousands for sure. And the problem is some are not relevant to the spot you're looking at, and some will lack a sufficient sample. So I'm going to use this hand to illustrate both of those points. This is a cash game hand from a real poker site from about 4 years ago. This player the player hero here was on the button and was dealt ace of spades, 10 of hearts. So he had ace 10 offsuit. Before the flop, villain 16 made a raise and hero called. The flop was 2 of spades, 4 of spades, 3 of diamonds. Villain 16 made a bet and hero made a call. I'm not going to go into whether or not that was a good play. There are reasons for it. There are reasons against it. But for the purposes of this hand, it's important to know that that happened. On the turn, villain 16 also bet, and hero also called. And the turn was the 10 of diamonds. And the river was the ace of hearts. So now we have two pair, top two pair in fact. And villain 16 makes another bet. The bet was 1,550 British pounds. And the pot was 1,975 pounds. So we're sitting here, we're getting 2.27 to 1 odds. So if we call and we're ahead 31% of the time or more, it's a good call. We can fold. Our stack is 3350, so we could also make a raise to like 1,1800. Now we have lots of stats here on the table. I'm not going to go through them all. This is our head.